Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I want to share with you guys some of the worst pieces of advice I've ever been given as a neurodivergent. Now, some of this advice, it might be okay for you and it might work for you, but for me as an individual, it doesn't work for me, and as a neurodivergent, it doesn't work for me personally. They actually kind of put pressure on me, and they just don't work for me. So I'm going to share my worst pieces of advice I've ever been given as a neurodivergent, and I'm asking you to drop down in the comments some of the worst pieces of advice you've ever been given. But first, if you could smash me a big thumbs up down below and subscribe to my YouTube channel, I will forever be grateful. So let's get on to the video. I've made a list of the 4 worst pieces of advice I've ever been given, and I'm just going to read them out to you and kind of explain each one, and explain why I personally feel like it's bad advice and kind of my experience with it. So yeah, let's get on to number 1. Number 1 is try not to take everything so personally. So let me just explain. As an ADHDer, as an autistic ADHDer, I shall say, this is a piece of advice which I really find patronising and quite condescending. I grew up basically undiagnosed. I didn't have any formal diagnosis, you know, I was just totally misunderstood, and my behaviour was kind of it was just misinterpreted as bad behaviour, when actually I look back now and I think it was a form of communication. I was trying to communicate that I wasn't comfortable in situations, that I didn't feel safe, blah 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 blah. And you know, when people say to me try not to take things so personally, I've had a lifetime of judgment and unsolicited advice, and when people say things to me, I do take it personally. Yes, I do. But if you know anything about neurodivergence, we really, not everyone, but some of us struggle with rejection, sensitivity, dysphoria. Now, look it up, search it up, or if you guys don't know, let me know down below and I'll do a video about it. Basically, in a nutshell, any form of rejection, as in criticism, constructive criticism, you know, criticism, whether it's there or not, I could perceive it and it's not actually there, but I misinterpretate maybe a different tone of voice, or, you know, basically any form of rejection or criticism that I feel that's there feels like I'm being stabbed in the heart 1,000 times, and it's super intense and it hurts, it physically hurts. So I do take things personally. Yes, I wish I didn't, but this piece of advice, it doesn't sit with me. Not everyone is able to just brush things off and let things go. It doesn't work like that for me. I know for a lot of neurodivergents, it doesn't work for them either. So this piece of advice, just please don't say it to anyone, but especially neurodivergents, because we've been through a lot and we've been judged and we've been criticised for everything, things that we can't even control. So these comments, this comment in particular, this kind of try not to take things too personally, that comment is hard and it's really hurtful. So that piece of advice does not sit well with me, and it's ranked as my, you know, one of my top 4 pieces of advice that is just bad. Number 2, I've grown up being told this all the time, and it is treat people how you wish to be treated or how you want to be treated. Now, although that sounds great, and you know, depending on whether or not that fits your personality, you know, great. But for me, I don't like that piece of advice, because as a neurodivergent and as someone who is extremely vulnerable, I really struggle to read social cues. You know, I'm basically a person who is over generous, and I'd give someone my last 10p if that meant that they were going to be happy and I felt like I'd done a good thing. I would do that and I wouldn't think anything of it, right? But some people take advantage of my good heart and my good nature and my good nice personality and my generosity, and not everyone treats me the way I want to be treated, regardless if I treat them nicely or not. I could be the nicest person to someone and they could be downright horrible to me and disrespect me and just, you know, use me and take, you know, great pleasure of taking my vulnerability for an advantage. on their behalf. Like, do you get what I mean? I think I'm rambling, I don't know, but what I'm trying to say is a friendship is 50-50, a relationship is 50-50, but I always feel like when I treat people the way I want to be treated, I'm going to give them 75% and I'm going to get 25 back, and that's not fair, and that's how it's always been. So for me, this piece of advice doesn't fit. I don't like this piece of advice because I feel like I'm super vulnerable and people will take advantage of that, and I will treat someone like that regardless if they reciprocate that, and that's where the issue comes from. And I've seen it happen to me many times, and it's just a cycle, and it falls into the same cycle. Like, I give 100% and they give me nothing, or I give 75 and I get 25 back. It's just, I don't like that piece of advice. I don't see it personally working great for me, and I've seen it work the other way for me, so I don't like that piece of advice. But that's just me. That's number 2. Number 3 is stop overthinking everything. Just calm down. Think logically. Now, great, that sounds like a great piece of advice, but not for me, and not for people who have a hyperactive mind that does not stop. You know, I can't just stop intrusive thoughts. I can't just stop overthinking. I can't just stop making these scenarios up in my head. Like, if I had the control to just stop, don't you think I would probably be doing that? Because it makes me very unhappy when I have these intrusive thoughts and my mind just doesn't stop. Like, it burns me out. It's exhausting. Don't you think if I had that power and control, I would stop it? I mean, it's just a little bit silly for me. I don't like that piece of advice. I think it's just a piece of, like, just a rubbish piece of advice that is just patronising for people who really struggle with, like, anxiety, overthinking things, intrusive thoughts, OCD, stuff like that. Like, you can't just stop these things. If we had the power, we would do it. But we don't have that power, so this piece of advice goes in the bin for me. I don't like it. So yeah, that's number 3. Number 4 is the worst piece of advice I've ever been given, and it's actually from, like, people like my teachers and that, like, when I was at school, and it still annoys me to this day. And it is, when someone is talking to you, give them eye contact, look at them in the eye. It's rude to just look around the room. It's rude. It's being rude. Right, okay, I know there's social etiquettes, and I know that it could be, like, rude and seen as rude and, like, obnoxious that I'm not listening to you, and I take all of that on board. Like, I take that all into account, and I totally validate how other people feel. But as a neurodivergent, right, let me just explain something. Eye contact is the worst thing in the world for me. It makes me physically uncomfortable. Like, it honestly makes me feel like someone is staring into my soul. I can't do it. Like, literally, like, all or nothing mentality takes over, right? I feel like if I give you eye contact, I'm going to be like this. Like, and I won't be paying attention to what you've said, because in my head it's like, pay attention, look them in the eye, but don't look too much. Just look a normal amount. Like, keep a normal amount of eye contact, but don't look too much. Like, don't look like a weirdo. Just look directly in the eye, but not for too long. Like, glance around the room, then go back. Like, in my head, I'm not listening to what you are saying. There is a dialogue in my head where I'm telling myself, I'm coaching myself through eye contact, right? People don't get that. Like, eye contact for me as a neurodivergent is very uncomfortable. So I think for me, like, this piece of advice is really bad, because I am not okay with putting myself in a very uncomfortable position and making myself feel physically unsafe in an environment. So this piece of advice is basically telling me, ignore how you feel and just get on with it anyway. Like, I don't care how you feel, just do it because it makes other people feel better. Your feelings don't matter. That's how that piece of advice comes across to me, and I am not okay with that. When I was younger, I couldn't advocate for myself, and I didn't want to come across rude. I didn't want to be shouted at or told off. So I would just force myself to look people in the eye. But I don't stand for that no more. Like, I don't stand for that. I'm not gonna be forced to make myself uncomfortable and sit in a room and make eye contact with somebody if I don't feel comfortable. Like, I can't do it. Like, for me, eye contact is the highest level of intimacy I can give someone that I trust. So if I can sit down with you and keep a general good kind of maintain a good standard and level of eye contact, then I feel really safe with you. I feel really comfortable, and I feel like you understand me, and I feel safe. But, like, if I don't feel safe in an environment, if I'm in an environment where I feel anxious, overwhelmed, or like I just don't know the people too well, eye contact is not okay. Like, I won't do it. Like, I can't help it. And it shouldn't be like all or nothing. Like, if I can't do it, then that's okay. Like, I should be able to communicate. I I can't make direct eye contact, but I am still listening, and I feel like there should be a level of understanding, but there's some social etiquette that makes it like rude to not make direct eye contact and maintain like a deadly stare to somebody when they're talking to you. Like, I can't do it. Number 5, whilst we were talking about the last one, like eye contact, this one popped in my head, and it was like that. I remember being told this so many times, and it was, you need to take yourself out of your comfort zone and do things that make you feel uncomfortable. And that was said by like PE teachers and stuff like that, when I was like, no, I don't want to do it, I don't feel comfortable doing that. I remember just being told, you need to push yourself, you know, take yourself out of your comfort zone, then you'll grow, then you'll find what you love, blah blah blah. Right, okay, great piece of advice for people who are that way inclined. I am not. I don't feel comfortable putting myself in uncomfortable situations, because ultimately it leads to burnout, it leads me to have anxiety attacks, it makes me feel physically ill, and it takes a whole load of toll on my body, mentally and physically, when I put myself in uncomfortable positions, because I've been doing this forever. I've masked my whole life. I've made myself go to social events, I've made myself go to parties, you know, do stuff that I don't actually want to do, because I don't want to feel rejected, and I don't want to feel like I don't fit in, and I would just want friends. I want to feel like I'm included. I've done it all my life. So no, I'm not gonna push myself out of my comfort zone, or push my personal limits so that I can grow. No, I am not. I'm quite content staying in my comfort like blanket, in my comfort kind of like zone, and I am not being told any longer to like push my limits, do things that make me feel uncomfortable so I can grow. Like, I'm not doing that. My comfort zone is pretty damn comfortable, and I don't want to get out of my comfort zone. I'm pretty happy here, and I'm really content, and yeah, I don't want to make myself ill. I'm totally happy if people think I'm boring. Like, I don't care. I don't want to go climb Mount Everest. I don't want to go bungee jumping. It scares me. It's not in my comfort zone. It's not something that would make me, you know, feel very comfortable. Like, it's out of my bloody comfort zone, and I don't want to do it. So why should I push myself to do things? If my brain is telling me no, then that's logical to me. Like, my brain is telling me no for a reason, and it's not anxiety talking, it's my comfort zone telling me that is too far, I don't feel comfortable. Now, don't get me wrong, I do stuff out of my comfort zone within reason, but I don't push myself out of my comfort zone. If I don't want to do something, I won't do it. But if I have the motivation and I feel comfortable trying something new, I will do it. There's a time and an environment, like a place, and with the right people and the right support, I will try new things, but not when I'm being forced or anything like that. So yeah, that piece of advice doesn't fit for me at all. So I hope those 4 plus a bonus one is something that you can relate to, and know that kind of like these pieces of advice that people give, normally neurotypical people that don't understand that you're neurodivergent, or just don't understand the conditions, disorders that you have as an individual. They don't understand you. They will give you unsolicited advice. Like, it's guaranteed in life. You will get judgment, and you would just generally get advice that you really didn't ask for, and you'll be like, and I'm not taking that on board. And I honestly urge you to not take things on board that you don't want to take on board. Like, I've always felt like I'm a pin, like, you know, like a pin board where people put their post-it notes like all the time, and it's like, I don't want any of them, and it leaves like a pinprick in my, and it just makes me feel like I should be doing that. Why is that piece of advice not helping me? Because usually there is a piece of advice that's made for neurotypical brains, not neurodivergent brains. Like, honestly, these pieces of advice that I've shared with you don't work for me, and they might work for you, don't get me wrong. They might generally be a good piece of advice for you, but for me as an individual, they're the worst pieces of advice I've ever been given as a neurodivergent. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you, because I know some of you neurodivergents will be able to relate to me, because I've spoken to some people, and I know that this is quite relatable. I know that a lot of us have been given unsolicited advice and life advice, coaching, whatever, and it just doesn't sit with us. It doesn't work, because it doesn't take into consideration our kind of struggles, our personal struggles. So yeah, I just wanted to share mine with you. Let me know down in the comments what advice, what things have you been told that is just like the worst piece of advice you've ever been told as a neurodivergent. Like, let me know down below. I'm so interested. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Remember to like and subscribe down below, and I will catch you next Monday. So yeah, have a good weekend. have a good week, have a good weekend, have a good whatever, and I'll see you next time. Bye.